episode 30 here of the Bullpen. Exciting week here as we have the 1A, 2A state finals on Friday and Saturday at Illinois Field in Champaign. And then the following week, we will have 3A, 4A state finals up in Joliet. So going to be a jam-packed couple weeks here with some playoff baseball and some state finals winners. But how are you guys doing?
Good, Gav. Is this episode coming out like same day today, Wednesday?
Yeah, tonight.
All right. Well, then this weather update will be it will actually matter. Weather outside sucks. I mean, today's sectional semis for 3A, 4A. Hoping this clears up, but doesn't look super promising. It's almost looking like, at least up here in Chicagoland, that might be better served moving stuff to tomorrow. I know tomorrow looks like it's going to be 74 and sunny, but maybe there's better luck down in the southern and central part of the state. But crappy weather up here, but we'll see if we can get any good baseball in today.
It looked bad across the state when I was looking at it. But the thing, I think they're going to do, I would think every team is going to want to do everything they can in their power to play. Just because if you win and you play on Thursday, then you play Saturday, and it's just one less day for arms to rest. And then also with the super sectional on Monday, I don't know, it just creates a little chaos if you have to bump that to Thursday. Although maybe some teams are wanting to go to Thursday to get an arm back. So you never know. But with how many turf fields there are now, around the state, I don't know. I would think they'd do everything in their power to get them in today. But it'll be curious. We'll be following for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking outside here, and it's been pretty rainy this morning. It's wet all over, but I was looking at some games. I know Mahomet and Glenwood played today at Lincoln, and I'm pretty sure Lincoln is all turf now, or at least their infield is turf. So there, like Drew said, there are some schools, at least in my area, that I think they'll be able to play at. And I think Wesleyan's probably hosting a game tonight as well. Wesleyan's turf, so we'll have some. I think Wesleyan's turf, isn't it? No, it might be grass. I can't remember, but
I'm pretty sure they had made that infield turf at
infield
least.
turf.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole thing, but
it is.
The beauty of Bloomington
Infield's
Normal is
turf.
you got 3 turf fields right there with the Corn Crib, ISU, and then Illinois Wesleyan.
Yeah.
But no, it's unfortunate. You want this to be bright blue skies and no issues and everything going off without a hitch. But that's the part of living in Illinois. So we'll roll with it. We'll see what's going on. And either way, if games do play, I'm sure there'll be great atmospheres. Like the game I was at on Saturday had an awesome environment. A lot of rowdy student sections and good play on the field. So we are fully in playoff mix here, Gav. I love it.
That's my game on Saturday was the same way. I was over at Milliken, and we'll kind of talk about this later, but just talking about it now. Their stadium at Milliken is awesome. I hadn't been there since they redid their field and everything, but Monticello and Tolona, it's almost like a home game, I think, for both of them. Both pretty close to Decatur there, so it was filled and the fans were getting into it. It was a fun atmosphere. So playoff baseball is the best because you have so many people showing up for these teams and the kids, and it's just always exciting. So that was fun to see this weekend too. But kind of moving down here. Let's talk about some JUCO stuff, some college stuff. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Lakeland. They did ultimately lose in the JUCO World Series, but just they made it pretty far, and they upset multiple teams, including John A. Logan before they got to the World Series, and then some higher seeds in the World Series. So just a big shout out to Lakeland for doing what they did this year. It was really cool to see, and I know we were all rooting for them just as the Illinois school at the JUCO World Series, but cool stuff there for Lakeland.
Yep. Shout out Julio Godinez. That's a heck of a run, and I just feel like they continue to get better ever since he took over, and clearly this year making the World Series is one heck of a run, something Lakeland hadn't done forever, Gavin, when I was reading into it and all. So, congrats to them.
And I mean, they're doing a good job with recruiting too. Just seeing the guys that they're bringing in, man, they might be good for years to come still, especially with the staff that they have, and it's good to see.
Yeah, it's hard. At JUCO and even any level of college baseball now, it's you just constantly have to reload. You lose so many guys every year with this transfer portal, and JUCO baseball is like that every year anyway. But it's all about reloading, and like the minute you know, take a breath or take your foot off the gas, you're gonna feel it in college baseball right now. So I'm sure Julio's gonna be working all summer, get him back to the state games. Hopefully, get him some guys to recruit again, because I know last fall he was leading the way. Lakeland was leading the way in state game, excuse me, in state game commitments. So
And
we'll
I think
bring
that's
some
still the
players for him to
case.
see again this summer.
Yeah. But Drew, I see you have a nugget on Murray State here as well if you want to get in on that.
I
Or was
just
that
thought the
someone else?
regionals taking place in D1
Yeah.
baseball right now were really cool across the country. A lot of good stuff. A lot of the series went to like that Monday, you know, winner take all type of game 7 feel to it. So I was locked in on that Murray State game playing Ole Miss. They jumped out to a huge lead. And then Ole Miss was, you know, charging back, hit a couple big home runs, made it 12-11. But Murray State got this huge performance out of the pen. I think it was from Graham Kellum, and I think he was at the University of St. Francis in Indiana. I was on their website today, so it looks like a guy that was a portal guy or transferred in, but threw huge innings for them. But what caught my eye and why I wanted to bring up some of these teams, Gavin, was just the Illinois representation on these teams. So like Murray State. First off, like shout out to Dan Skirka, the head coach there, because I know Murray State doesn't have, you know, the beautiful resources that a lot of these other programs have. So for them to make a super regional, first time in school history, like huge shout out to him. They, you know, for a long time they didn't really have like a second paid assistant down there at Murray. I know things have changed a little bit to make the situation better, but Dan's got to wear a lot of hats in that program. But speaking of Illinois guys just on that roster, like Jack Wajda, he was a Providence arm a couple years back. You know, he's on that team. You've got freshman Jackson Ugo from Andrews on that team. You got two guys from Mater Dei down south, Breeze Mater Dei on that team. Also like Will Vierling, really good left-handed bat. I liked out of Wisconsin that went to Louisville out of high school. He's at Murray State now. So just thought that was really, really cool. Wanted to shout them out. But
Yeah.
like Louisville advancing as well in the Vanderbilt regional, Gavin. And I know we were talking about Ethan Eberle because he got a start and looked really good. And then there's
Yeah.
just a ton of Illinois guys on that Louisville squad. Eddie King, Jake Monroe, Zion Rose, Ethan Eberle, Parker Detmers, TJ Schlageter, Brennan Cutts. Like the list goes on and on.
So I pulled this up, Drew. 'Cause
Yeah.
I saw that 3 guys from Louisville's team, sorry, 4 guys, but 3 of them were Illinois, guys from Illinois, made the region all tournament team. And that was Ethan Eberle, or sorry, 2 guys, Ethan Eberle, and then the regional MVP was Eddie
Eddie?
King.
Yeah.
And then in that Wright State game, I had it on for a few innings, and watching Eberle pitch, he was like dealing like his slider or slurve, whatever he calls it, sweeper. That thing is disgusting. It's exactly like what we had seen before, and he's still just getting guys out at the college level. But he threw 6.1 innings, struck out 11, and didn't allow a run. So as a freshman in a regional, like that was super, super impressive to see.
I'd love to see that. It's like carried over for him into college because he always struck guys out in Illinois in high school. But you never like, you know, is it the competition? Is it just he's playing 3A baseball or whatever it may be, some 4A baseball, facing teams in Central Illinois is a little different than playing guys in a regional. And like you said, just to have that composure to do that on that stage, man. Congrats to Ethan Eberle. He's a guy we've seen for a long, long time. He was a future gamer, but we knew him well before that as well. And then Arizona was another team, Gavin. Like they've got Illinois representation on their roster as well. Brennan Summerhill, Tony Pluta, like his numbers are crazy good. He threw 32 innings, gave up 20 hits, walked 5 guys, struck out 31 so far in the year, and has a 1.39 ERA. Casey Hintz has thrown 49 innings for them. Both Casey Hintz and Tony Pluta went to St. Viator. They're Viator grads. Wright State here. I see somebody's got a nugget on Wright State. What do you got there?
Well, I had to shout out the
Absolutely.
school near the hometown, but yeah, they made history. I know they ended up losing to Louisville, but they eliminated Vandy in Vandy's regional. Vandy was the number one national seed, and it's the first time the number one national seed has not made it to a regional final. So
I did not know
pretty
that.
crazy. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's nuts, but there is some Illinois flavor on that Wright State team. They got Dane Thomas out of Marist, Hunter Warren out of Moline, and then Malachi Peplanis out of Huntley. So just want to shout that out as well.
Man, Dane Thomas has been there a while. He was a speedy left-handed hitting outfielder a while back for Marist. And Hunter Warren, I think Gavin, he was a guy we were talking about.
Yes.
Because he was like close to leading their team in hitting towards the end of the year. And I was a little bit blown away because he's still young there as well. I think he was a 23 grad. And then Malachi Peplanis, I mean, he was a longtime starter for Huntley as well. Like another guy that was a future gamer. So just awesome to see all the Illinois flavor, making some pushes for these programs, going to super regionals. Like they're 2 wins away from going to the World Series now. So we may see a lot of guys over there in Omaha. At least I'll be rooting for that. But Illinois is strong. It's, strong in the pro levels, strong in the big leagues, but really strong across all of college baseball as well.
I will say, having done this now this is my, I think, 2.5, 3 years or whatever, coming up on 3 years potentially, it's really cool getting to watch college baseball and just see so many players that I had either seen or we talked about in our rankings calls, things like that, or at events. It's getting to that point for me at least now where it's just kind of they're mixing into the college level, which is really cool to see. Oh.
I don't want to get to this next section here. This next section, it's going to be a bit of a bummer for me. I know Dane wanted this to be first, right out of the gate. He wanted us to talk about this. But Gavin, you want to lead the way on this, or Tyler? I haven't been totaling up these numbers.
Let's get into this playoff extravaganza update. One thing before you get into it, Tyler, I will say, and Dane, feel free to touch on it, but super cool to see Sacred Heart Griffin make it to state after this whole do it for Dane thing. I think that's so funny. But yeah, Tyler, get into it.
No, that's a great shout from the top. I mean, Dane has literally turned into a cult hero. Feels like within that community. I mean, they retweet their final score and it's hashtag do it for Dane. It's awesome. So shout out to the Cyclones over there. But doing this, we essentially have 2 weeks left of doing this. I'm kind of bummed. It's been a lot of fun, I think, for all of us except maybe Gavin. But looking at the standings, going into 3A, 4A semi finals and sectionals, and then 1A, 2A state this weekend. Dane is in first with 68 points. I am in second with 61. Drew is in third with 50 points. And then Peter is in fourth with 38. And Gavin is sitting in last still at 34 points.
The one thing I noticed about those numbers, Tyler, was that Dane is doubled Gavin.
Yeah,
68 and 34. So that was the one thing that stood out.
Hey,
and the fact that I'm
glad,
still within striking distance, I'm fired up.
I'm glad you pointed that out, not me. Feel like sometimes I'm kind of bullying Gavin on here, so it's good that someone else is sharing the love.
It's all good. Just wait until the Griffins just win state on Saturday, and I
mean,
get 20
Gavin,
points,
at this
right?
point, you're gonna need 2 teams to win state to even get back into the thick of things.
I got some squads.
You never know what'll happen here.
Right.
And the beauty of it is it's not bullying. It's facts. Those are numbers. The numbers speak. They're the truth. So we'll see. There's still a lot of baseball left, and what I love about it is the points now get bigger. So there could be some fluctuation here to finish off the season. You would know more than me what's actually attainable, but I mean maybe Gavin can catch Peter.
Well,
by Saturday,
that might be a stretch. I mean, 4 points.
Isn't cheat out for 1A,
4
2A?
points for Gavin is 50 for everyone else right now.
Yeah.
Wins are hard to come by for Gavin.
How many points do I get for a state semifinal win? 10?
10.
Yeah, so that's 30 points when Father McGivney wins state. So.
And you'd still be, that would only get you up to second right now. But anyway, we'll get into it. For the 1A, we only have 2 teams left standing. Gavin is one of those, which he's hanging all of his entire hopes and dreams on Father McGivney right now. Drew has Marquette left, so I don't know. We'll see what happens there, but we do have 2 teams still standing in 1A.
And pretty good teams to be hanging your hat on. Like, if you are
Totally.
Gavin sitting there and you've got Father McGivney in your back pocket, like, they've been ultra impressive all year. I love what they've got going. So anything can happen down there at 1A. And, I mean, we were talking about, like, the 1A, 2A is going to be a lot of fun. And I know we may get into that here next in our next segment. But, yeah, keep going, Tyler.
Dane absolutely killed it with 2A. Not only does he have Sacred Heart, Griffin, and Newman Central Catholic both going to state. All 3 of his teams were playing in 2A Super Sectionals. Dane, off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember your third 2A team. It was Chicago Hope.
Yeah,
so
Newman Central Catholic took out Chicago Hope, so team took out the other team. So
that's right. But one impressive run.
Dane.
Yeah.
My bad.
But honestly, a really impressive run for Dane. It's honestly no wonder why he's in first. I have Teutopolis left in the 2A part of things. They are going to the state. They were the first overall pick for 2A, so I know Gavin gave me some crap on air for taking the Wooden Shoes first overall, and look who's laughing now, Gav.
Man,
everyone's
Tyler holds on to all the receipts, Gavin. So you got to be careful.
He has all this written down on like a piece of paper next to him.
Exactly.
It's what I look at before I go to bed at night. It's my motivation. Not to pick on Gav again, but everyone's 3A picks survived regionals last week, except Gavin's. East Peoria was taken down by Limestone. But everyone else's 3A picks are going to enter today still alive. And then all of Dane's 4A picks. He's the only guy who all of his 4A picks survived last week. He's got Libertyville, New Trier, and Naz all playing today. So we'll see what happens there. And then not a great week for Drew with the 4A. He had some really high-powered teams, which we'll kind of talk about in our next segment. There were a ton of upsets last week, but all Drew's got left in 4A is now Brother Rice, which, similar to Gavin, it's a great team to have still remaining for that part of things.
I mean, I was feeling outstanding with Manuka, and they got upset. And Brother Rice, they are scared. Fenwick played them really tough. So it's the beauty of the playoffs. Like, anything can happen. I know we joke around about it. It's a ton of fun. It does keep it light and keeps us kind of engaged in every single kind of, sectional out there, regardless of class, which I love. But I was blown away. Like, we were looking through some of the teams that had big wins or upsets, and there were a lot of upsets in 4A, especially compared to some of the other classes. And I know we'll get to that after this next session, but again, we got 1A, 2A state finals here. Do you want to give a little preview?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about what teams are playing on Friday. You're gonna have for 1A, you're gonna have Marquette versus Lexington. And then Pawnee versus Father McGivney. And then for 2A, we will have Eureka versus Sacred Heart Griffin and Newman Central Catholic versus Teutopolis. So I'm excited. I actually think there's going to be a lot of good players, just prospects alone at 1A, 2A, but then just good teams too. I think it's going to be a really fun weekend. Probably one of the better ones that I can remember in the last few years. So it should be fun. I'm excited for it.
It's a state finals where I feel like there should be college coaches there. Because you've got a ton of 2026s that need to be seen. Like, the first that I think of is Alec Novotny. Like, he's a 26. Like, somebody needs to check that guy out. Father McGivney has a host of them. Whether you're talking Isaac Wendler or whoever else, they've got a bunch of guys to see. Sacred Heart's got some 2026s to see, Dane. Like, I know you rattled off 3 or 4 of them earlier, like Will Pennell, Carson Butler, and some others. Teutopolis has some arms to see. So I think it'll be a really good weekend. College coaches should come on out, check it out. But 1A, 2A, 2, Gavin, like, there's always somebody that pops. A guy maybe we didn't know about, like Pawnee's probably got a guy we haven't seen, or Lexington. To get all the way here to state, like, there's clearly going to be some players.
Well, Dane, we were on the phone yesterday talking about 1A, 2A state, and he dropped a little nugget on me that Lexington has potentially an arm that's going to be mid upper 80s that he's seen at maybe a camp before. So Dane, I don't know if you want to get into that at all, if the guy's name or anything, but feel free.
Yeah. 2026, Braden Barber. Saw him at a prospect camp, college prospect camp. Two-way guy, catcher, pitcher. So it looks like he's leading the team going into Friday and on the mound and also at the plate. So be very interesting to see him at the high stakes.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, it won't be a sleeper for me anymore because Dane's already all over it. But
well, yeah. So looking down here too, it looks like there were some pretty big wins the last week or so. So if you guys want to rattle off some of these that stand out to you, feel free.
well, just as I was going through, like what really stood out to me were some of these 4A teams that lost. In particular, two of the ones I had. So it got my wheels spinning on like, all right, where were all the big upsets, last week or just in the playoffs so far? And like, I went through 1A, 2A, 3A, not a ton. A lot of the higher seeds advanced in those classes. I know West Frankfort was a 10 seed and they made a run to the sectional final before losing to DuQuoin in 2A. That was one of the bigger like Cinderella runs that I saw in one of the lower classes. But then St. Viator just beat 2 seed Grayslake Central in 3A. That was a pretty big upset. But in 4A, South Elgin beat St. Charles North. Stag took down Lincoln Way West, who I know we picked Lincoln Way West in our draft. And they were like, I think my preseason pick to win state. They had some unfinished business and had some really good seniors leading the way. So that to me was a pretty big upset. And then I know a great game we were actually at on Saturday. Lake Zurich held off Fremd. A furious like late inning rally by Fremd. So shout out to Mike Mano there. That's his first year under the helm with Lake Zurich and taking them to a sectional semi. Beating a team that I think had only lost like one game the entire year going into the final week of the season. Bradley Bourbonnais is this second year in a row I think we were talking about that they took down Manuka early in the playoffs. So that one really hurt my soul there with choosing Manuka as my second pick in our draft. Prospect beat down a 3 seed Hersey by a large margin, and we knew Hersey was loaded on the mound, so that was an impressive win for Prospect. Wabanzi, a 10 seed, kind of the same way, won convincingly over 3 seed West Aurora. And then Bartlett, an 8 seed, took down 1 seed Willowbrook rather convincingly as well. So those are some that I saw. I'm not sure if there were any others that were hanging out there that I missed. But want to shout out those teams and those programs for those huge wins and advancing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think those were kind of the main ones that I had saw, Drew. So kind of moving to like some of the bigger matchups. I guess this is really tonight for the most part, or tomorrow, depending on what happens with these games. But just a couple in my area that I saw that I was pretty intrigued by was Champaign Central and Mount Zion. 3A sectional there, Glenwood and Mahomet Seymour. Washington versus Joliet Catholic. They're playing over, I believe it's at Washington. It might be Metamora. And then Morris and Dunlap. They're over, that is Washington maybe?
A lot of these have been getting moved, yeah.
But yeah, just a few good ones. Edwardsville, O'Fallon down there, down south. That'll be a big one. Actually, that's actually up here at Wesleyan.
Well,
tonight.
there's the thing. It was planning on being at Wesleyan, but it makes no sense from a travel. And they've done this in the past. They moved it to SIU Edwardsville.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. So
and honestly, that game has like game of the year type vibes to me. Like it was awesome last week, or 2 weeks ago. Right when they were playing for their conference still, it was like Connor Blue against Joe Chirotto, like probably the same matchup you're going to get tonight. Like it's going to be an awesome game for anybody down there in that area.
Yeah, and then Triad and Marion are playing today too, so a big 3A matchup there.
And I'm not sure what's going to happen there, Gavin, because like those games were scheduled for 10 a.m. and 12:30.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I looked before we hopped on to see if they had put out anything on social. I hadn't seen anything. But I would imagine, I mean, Triad, they have a turf infield, so I'm sure they'll do whatever they can if they can find a window to get a game in or something. But yeah, I would think it'd be tough. I don't know what'll happen down there. But keep going because there are plenty of good matchups.
No, yeah, I mean, were there any, like, I was just going to have you guys, if there's any games near areas that you wanted to mention or talk about?
Well, Revis.
Those were some for Central Illinois, Southern Illinois.
Like, Revis was supposed to host a doubleheader, but they moved that to Triton. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that should be Brother Rice, OPRF, and then Nazareth and Mount Carmel.
You got it.
I mean, those are two really good games. You see what Mount Carmel's done, like, the past two postseasons. They are not an easy out in the playoffs. And Nazareth, I mean, I feel like they've been at state probably 3 times in the last handful of years. And then OPRF, I feel like, has gotten hot late, Pete, or at least played like some of their best baseball towards the end of the year. And then obviously Brother Rice has been towards the top of the Power 25 all year.
Well, I was going to say that's a rematch, Naz and Mount Carmel, from last year. So that'll be really interesting. But that sectional is probably it catches my eye for sure. I mean, it's a gauntlet any way you look at it. But yeah, that'll be really interesting.
Well, and just from where we sit, the amount of like prospects that you would see in both those games, like on either side, like it's crazy. Obviously, Brother Rice speaks for itself, but like OPRF's got a bunch of guys. Yeah, a lot of them are like seniors, but like there's also a Johnny Nelson there who's a 2026 going to Wright State. Mount Carmel and Naz both kind of speak for themselves as well. So that is another angle to this that I'm kind of looking at is just all the prospects you would see at both those games.
You got a CCL matchup with St. Lawrence playing St. Rita. That's never going to be easy. They played each other a bunch during the season. Lincoln Way East, Lincoln Way Central. Sneaky, really good matchup, especially depending on who's going to be on the mound for Lincoln Way Central. I know, this probably deserves a shout out, but like Jack Bauer threw on Saturday. We were not there for that outing, but apparently confirmed by multiple MLB scouts, he's up to 103. If that's true, they're saying that's the firmest fastball to ever be thrown by a high school prospect. And like the thing that blows me away about it is like he's left-handed. Like it's not a big, physical right-hander with just crazy arm strength. Like it's a fluid left-handed arm that's throwing 103 miles an hour. So just shout out Jack Bauer. If that's, I don't want to just say it's confirmed and it's, a fact, but if it is 103 and the fastest pitch ever thrown by a high school player, like, congrats on making history, Jack.
And I'm kind of pulling this up on the fly because I think I was watching a video a guy made. If he did throw 103, if that is true, I'm pretty sure, Tyler, I feel like you would know this too for sure, but Tariq Skubal and Aroldis Chapman are the only 2 left-handed arms in the big leagues to ever throw 103. Is that I believe that's correct?
That's probably right. I know Skubal hit 103 on because he's a freak. Not to get all MLB, but like he hit 103. I want to say it was last weekend on like the last pitch of a complete game start. That ended up being like a Maddox too. And Chapman, when I was younger when he was with the Reds, I want to say he ran up to like 105, and that might be the record. I really don't know on that, but I know he did touch 105.
He was like, it was technically, didn't it read like 106 or something, or
I think
107?
so,
could have. Yeah, I might
it was
be
like
short.
actually 105.7, I think.
The only other guy I'd want to know, like, his hardest pitch would be Randy Johnson.
That's what I
Totally.
thought.
Like,
I was
just
like, he had
and
to
it's
be.
probably not 103. Like, 103 is such a outlier number. It's hard to even wrap my head around it. But
And it's crazy because like I'll be watching the Cubs and like that Palencia dude's in there, and he's throwing like 100, 102, and I'm like, dang, like that's gas. And then it's like there's just an 18-year-old doing that, like 15 miles away from my house right now, from the left side.
it's pretty crazy, especially to see the way he's been competing and throwing strikes and leading Lincoln Way East. And we'll see if they can get past Lincoln Way Central. He'll be throwing for a sectional final.
Imagine
one
how
would
packed
think
that
at
will be.
least.
That's going to be so packed.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, so one thing, just unless you guys had before I move on, were there any other games you wanted to mention? Sorry.
There's
Go
2
ahead.
more games in particular I want to mention. Gav, Lake Zurich Mundelein, that's a conference matchup, and they split in the regular season, so that should be a really good game. I know we touched on it earlier, but Lake Zurich is having a really good run right now. And both those coaches have been there and done that. Coach Lerner at Mundelein does a really good job. Obviously, Coach Mano's track record speaks for itself. Another one that stuck out to me was Lane Tech Maine South. Now, this was a game I actually saw this year, and honestly, I feel like both of those teams were very evenly matched. It was a game that went into extra innings, and Maine South walked it off. So Lane Tech's probably going to be looking for some revenge, and I just think both of those teams are very evenly matched, so that should be another really good matchup tonight.
I love
I
like
see
Lake
two.
Zurich should have their ace on the mound. I'm pretty sure they'll have Josh Marzik because they threw Colin Chung on Saturday. I know Marzik's been really good for them this year, so that'll make that matchup even more interesting. And Maine South, like they're young. The fact that they're making this run, competing the way they are, like the future's bright, down there for Coach Lorenz. Those were kind of my two takeaways from what you just stated there.
Well, we kind of talked with Lorenz about that, right, in our preseason interview. It's like they play a really tough schedule, and all that's going to do is prepare you for later in the season. And now, look, I mean, clearly it's paid off, but there's two more games, like a couple Fox Valley matchups that stand out, like McHenry and Huntley.
Oh yeah,
that'll be really good. And then Prairie Ridge and Cary Grove. Like, who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, Cary Grove's got Charlie Tazzy.
If he's on the mound, yeah, that's a ball game.
Know. But Prairie Ridge, they've been having a great year. And you just never know. Like, those games are always competitive no matter who it is in the Fox Valley. So those stand out for me too.
Yeah, so looking now, last week we did like we didn't have a player of the week just because it was kind of, we're getting into the playoffs, but we had like a Diamond Notes / playoff performers story. So keep an eye out for that. Go look at that from last week. A lot of good nuggets in there. But then today, our guys are working on a playoff performer story. So this, I think, will be a pretty cool story to see who's been doing well throughout the playoffs so far. So that will come out either today or tomorrow, so just keep an eye out for that. But moving down to some coverage and prospects that we liked from last week, like the first thing I'll start off with is just Ike Young. And honestly, there's not really a ton to say about him. He's a right-handed pitcher from Monticello. He's a 2025, going to Illinois. Like, I've talked about him twice now, I think, and he continues to just look like a guy. Up to 93 in this look. Curveball looked a lot better than I've seen it before. Struck out 13 guys, 3-sport athlete. Like, to me, he's one of the top prospects in the class, and he will only continue to get better as he gets older. Like, he has so much room for more to grow and polish. So that's really all I've got on him. Like, he just continues to look like one of the best in the class. So that's what I got on Ike Young.
Yeah, and then my best prospect was Davis Weeks. He absolutely shoved on Saturday, through a complete game shutout while striking out 17 batters, allowing only 3 runners on base, 2 from hits and 1 from a drop third strike. Fastball sat 90-92 with arm side run. Velocity remained the same through the first 6 innings, settled down to 89-90 in the 7th. But getting that deep into the count and still hitting 92 is pretty impressive for what he's been doing. And then he mixed in a slider, sitting 78-81 with sharp late actions that produced plenty of swing and misses. Also flashed a changeup that sat low 80s. Very confident on the mound, while also being a dynamic shortstop in the field.
Yeah, I was Dane, I was impressed with that video. Just seeing what he continues to do. Like, I know we've talked about it a little bit with him, but he just continues to get better on both sides of the ball, and he's done that for the past few years. He just keeps picking up, and it's awesome to see. So kudos to him.
I'll hop in next. For me, I was torn, but I'm gonna go Brandon Shannon here. Obviously, McHenry's got a nice handful of guys that I easily could have picked for this, but saw him throw Saturday against Jacobs, and man, he's good, and he's a winner. Like, to me, he's just a winner. Wasn't probably the crispest. I've seen his fastball control-wise, but like, he was still running at 92, 94, holding it 90-92 still late into the 7th inning. Slider was probably the best I've seen from him, and I saw him a couple times last year. Saw him earlier this year, and like, that pitch just continues to tick up. It was honestly a little unfair to the Jacobs hitters at times. Like, the fastball command or control was, pretty spotty, but he was able to just turn over that slider for strikes pretty much whenever he needed to, get an out pit or get a guy out anytime he needed it. Didn't see the splitter in this look, which I know has been a pitch for him in the past, but A lot to like with Brandon. I don't know what the future holds if he's going to be at Louisville in the fall or if he's going to be with, an MLB team here this summer. But hope that's not the last I see of Brandon on the mound this year for McHenry. But if it was, man, what a career for him, first of all. And then just, talking to parents and administrators that came up to me, thanking us for being there, talking about Brandon. Seems like he's a great kid and has a really great reputation in the area as well. So kudos to Brandon, man. He just continues to look the part every time I see him.
No, and you had some tough choices there because Carver Cone, what he keeps doing, and did we call it out that he set the single season record for runs scored at McHenry, and he did it as a
I
freshman.
can't remember
so.
if we did. It's probably worth throwing it out there again, though.
Yeah,
if
so
we
he's
did.
a freshman at McHenry, and he already set the record for single season runs scored. Speaks to the amount of games and at bats he had as a freshman. But to do that his freshman year, like I would think then he's well on his way to set the school record for a career. That'll probably be coming probably sooner rather than later.
Probably like next year.
Yeah, exactly. But you also had like Landon Clements. I know I got some video sent over on him as well. He's a young sophomore, left-handed hitting middle infielder that we like. That's got some upside. And then I saw Montini and St. Francis. So, no like guy that's just like, wow, it's the top, Brandon Shannon, top 10 player in the class. But shortstop Drew Church for Montini, he had to be up there for me. There's a couple like Nolan Galla's probably in that mix for St. Francis from the game I was at, and I thought James McGrath, a sophomore for St. Francis as well, could be in that mix. But like Drew Church, the frame is the first thing that you notice when you walk to the field. Like it is exactly how you'd want to draw it up from a projection, high-waisted athletic standpoint, and then the way he plays shortstop. He's a guy that if I went over to like the Kane County Cougars or something to watch a minor league game or a double-A field, like, and Drew Church was out there playing shortstop, I wouldn't blink an eye. I wouldn't think twice. The actions are that real. It's easy. It's confident. The arm plays really good across the diamond. Like it's a no doubt shortstop moving forward. He was also on the barrel a couple times in that game. Like really impressive look at Drew Church. I think there's way more to come there too. And then James McGrath is a sophomore outfielder for St. Francis that is strong, athletic, and plays center field and plays it well. Threw an absolute dime right on the catcher at home plate to nearly nail a runner. It was a bang bang play, but really impressed me with the arm strength, the accuracy, the release, even just like the way he attacked the baseball in the outfield. That's a guy to definitely follow in years to come. But Drew Church, James McGrath, probably my two best prospects from that game I was at.
And one thing I wanted to add, because I saw this come through my Twitter the other day on Brandon Shannon, is that he also broke the wins record this year for McHenry, which was previously held by Bobby Miller. So pretty cool to see for Brandon Shannon there. But looking at uncommitted watch, guys, right-handed pitcher Tyler Henry from Tolono Unity. He's a 2026. I just saw him on Saturday against Ike Young. Smaller frame, but pretty repeatable, athletic delivery, pretty up-tempo, works pretty quick, but his fastball was up to 88. Compact arm, higher slot. Off-speed was not like super polished, like the curveball wasn't completely there. It didn't have like sharp actions as much, but definitely a lot to work with, I think. And the velo held throughout. It was like 84 to 88 throughout his outing. And he pitched, I think, 6 innings maybe, but just an uncommitted guy to know. I know he was at the state games last year for us, but he didn't pitch. So I was pretty impressed to see up to 88, and just the way that it worked. I like the operation, things like that. So uncommitted right-handed pitcher Tyler Henry from Tolono Unity.
Yeah, I had Tanner Wagen from Eureka, 2025. He threw a complete game shutout on Saturday in the sectional finals against IVC. Mid-80s arm, mixing a low 70s curveball that he went too heavily in the later innings. Just uncommitted 2025 that's still in the market that's going to be available and people can see this weekend in Champaign.
And then moving down here and looking at our best starting performance on the mound. What do you guys got here?
Yeah, I have Aiden Torrens. I saw him last Wednesday. UIC commit. He threw a complete game while striking out 13 batters, allowing one earned run, 3 hits and 2 walks. He broke a 20-year record at Sherrard as he picked up his 131st strikeout on Wednesday to claim the single season strikeout record. Low slot lefty, fastball sitting upper 80s, topping out at 90. Mixing a slider that was 76, 79 with depth and late actions. Also showed a low 80s changeup that played towards the bottom of the zone. Just a really interesting arm and a good get by the UIC Flames.
Yeah, for me, Brandon Shannon again. Just to give you his line this time, he got the win. 6 2/3 innings pitched. Only gave up 2 hits. Like I said, the fastball control was a little spotty. Did have 4 walks, but 11 Ks. And only gave up 1 run. It was unearned, but like the 11 Ks, and he really started to get a bunch of strikeouts. It felt like towards the end of the game. Like it wasn't like he just started off hot and was ripping off 6 or 7 strikeouts for the first few frames. It was really he started getting going towards the end in big spots. He's getting big strikeouts and with guys in scoring position, and it was a tight game. It was 1-1 until that 6th inning. So yeah, Shannon for me was a no doubter here.
I'm gonna jump in with Nolan Gala. He got the ball for St. Francis. I would say he's primarily an infielder, just an athletic infielder, but clearly competes and battles on the mound. Put together a strong performance for St. Francis. He went 6 2/3. He was 1 out away from going a complete game. He gave up 6 hits, 1 earned run, 6 walks, and 5 Ks. Like he battled traffic throughout the game and consistently had to come up and make big pitches in big spots and get some help from his defense too. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but Nolan Gala, like just battled, competed, athlete, when it came to the question of like best overall prospect I saw, like he probably would have been in that mix if I got to see him play the infield. And I did get to see him hit, and it's really, really interesting at the plate as well. Like it's twitchy, athletic. He's got bounce and spring to like his overall game, even the way he is on the mound. Like it's a lot of effort. It was impressive just to see him go 6 2/3 and like kind of hold his stuff, hold his, I wouldn't say like command because he kind of was scattered throughout the game, but just continued to battle. And he's a nice little number 2 arm there for St. Francis because it was mid to upper 80s as well.
All right, and then what do you guys got for your underclassmen spotlight?
I have outfielder Jaden Barrage from Geneseo, 2027. Got to see him Wednesday night against Morton. Projectable 6'2" frame, physical right-hander with a pure whippy swing and easy power to all fields. He connected on a line drive in the first inning to the left center gap for a double. And then his next 2 plate appearances, he worked walks. And then his final, he connected on another hard line drive, this time to right field for a single. Just an interesting 2027 power bat to keep an eye on up in Geneseo.
I was all in on that video, Dane. So I will see, like, for everybody out there, Gavin Smith is the guru behind this podcast as far as editing it, putting it out. I would love to get an overlay video of Jaden Barrage and that tweet you put out, like on this YouTube if we're able to, and put more work on Gavin's plate. But regardless, like go check out this social post. Jaden Barrage. It's Burrage. Because the frame, it looked every bit of like 6'1", 6'2", and athletic with more to come. And then the swing was really, really athletic as well with bat speed and multi-sport guy, if I'm not mistaken there, Dane. For some reason, I feel like he was a football guy, but maybe I'm just making that up because it looks like he could play linebacker or safety.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
I don't know if I put a social post, but the video is definitely in his profile on betbaseball.com.
Got it. Maybe you just send it over to us. So yeah, great little call out there. Prepbaseball.com. Go to his profile. Videos are in there. Good stuff though. That guy, like, as far as, it was even part of our hot list this week. Like, you'll see our hot list story come out from a national perspective. Like, hey, breakout guys from the spring. And we put the lefty from Farmington, Gavin, in there. And I know we threw some other guys like Anthony Cardilano, was a huge breakout candidate for Brother Rice, but like Jaden Barrage right there as well. Like we had not seen Geneseo this spring, finally got our eyes on him, and a sophomore that looks like that definitely kind of like popped as a high follow.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but mine is going to be Carver Cone, number one player in our 2028 class, and I think the refreshing thing from where we sit is every time we go out and see him, he looks like the best player in the class. Saturday was no different. The way he moves in the outfield, it's so athletic. It's so clean. He's a switch hitter. Saw him exclusively from the left side this time, and like I love the swing. It's so handsy. It's loose. It's athletic. Thought he was more aggressive in this look than maybe I've seen in the past. Now he's a leadoff guy, so most of the time you kind of want some patience up there. But man, he was jumping on good pitches in the zone early in counts. Wasn't waiting until hey I'm down 2 strikes to start getting going. So had 2 hits, but man, just continue to be impressed by Carver. Drew shouted out Landon Clements as well. He's a 2027, another left-handed hitter for McHenry at the top of that order. Bats in the 2 spot, plays second base for the Warriors. Another guy to keep in mind going forward.
And I kind of mentioned James McGrath already for St. Francis. So don't need to get into him too much, but he hits like 4-5 hole for St. Francis, kind of right in the heart of that. Really good order. Really liked the lineup for St. Francis. And he's a big piece of that. Adds some thump in the middle of that order. But one name I just wanted to shout out was freshman third baseman Chase Gregonis for St. Francis. So I don't know how much playing time he's gotten on varsity. But with Nolan Gala being an infielder, he started on the mound on Saturday, so it opened up that infield spot. And Gregonis ends up playing third. He gets DH'd for, but it's a long levered, like 6-foot lean frame with plenty more to come. And had really advanced actions for a freshman at third. Like had to make a tough play in game, handled it with ease. I liked just the way he carried himself out there defensively for a freshman. So those are my kind of 2 underclass spotlights. But Chase Gregonis, we'll need to see him swing the bat, obviously. But what he did, and like I just think he's a guy that's going to be able to stick on the infield moving forward. And in the Midwest, like it's not easy to find prospects that can actually stick on the dirt, at that next level, college. And he's only a freshman. So those were my 2 call outs there.
All right, and then what do we got? So we got a couple names here for best defensive play and defensive/defensive prospect.
So Wednesday night when I was at the Geneseo Morton game, in the top of the 7th, Andrew Brooks, who was in center field, made an outstanding diving catch into the left center gap. Ethan Galloway, another 2027 from Geneseo, connected on a hard drive, and Brooks ran it down and made an outstanding catch. To prevent any bleeding. There's when Geneseo was trying to add more insurance runs, and he prevented it. Brooks was just really all over the place during that game for Morton, so just a little shout out for him.
And mine wasn't really a play, Gavin. I just watching the whole St. Francis Montini game. The one thing that stood out to me, because there were multiple opportunities, was just how good the infield defense was for both teams. I typically am not coming out of a high school game saying that. It's typically the opposite, but I was blown away by how many opportunities there were and how cleanly they were handled by both teams. And to just give a little shout out here. So like for St. Francis at third base, they had freshman Gregonis. Shortstop is Zach Meduja. He's a senior. I really like him. I think he's going to Saint Xavier. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Anybody that wants to look it up. But I was getting really good run times on him. He played a really good shortstop. I like the look. He leads off for St. Francis. I had a 4.15 in his first at bat on ground out to third, and then a 4.40 on a turn on a fly out to right in his last at bat. But second baseman, and Tyler, you may be able to pronounce this name better than me, but Ian Bagaconza is that's
what I
right?
would have said.
Yeah, he plays second for them and played a really good second base. Had a couple like tweener hops that he handled with ease. So really liked what St. Francis had to offer on the infield. But then Montini, I already mentioned Drew Church playing shortstop. Um, they have a freshman, Cameron Cox. I saved him for this. I didn't put him in my underclass spotlight, but like he's playing second base for Montini, and he and Drew Church up the middle were fun to watch. We've talked about some double play combos across the state, whether it's like Natanic and Colin Campbell for Brother Rice, and there's some others that are really solid. But
Gavin Michaels and
Beatty,
man, I'm blanking on his
yeah,
Kyle Beatty. Yeah.
yeah, Beatty for Normal Community. I was just thinking like Brady Holland and Joey Ireland for Mount Carmel's pretty solid as well. I know there's some others out there, but really like Drew Church and Cameron Cox. Like Cameron Cox does not play defense like a freshman. It's really, really steady, and they made a couple really nice turns. And then Julio Ayala is a sophomore left-handed hitting third baseman. Could probably play all over the infield for Montini, but like I loved his pregame infield. It was clean, but with actions and crisp, and the arm can play from multiple slots, and he played with ease and comfort and confidence. And then that carried over to the game as well. Like, just really, really good infield play. So, like, shout out Montini, St. Francis. You guys got some guys that are going to play infield in college.
All right. Well, I think that will wrap up episode 30 here of the Bullpen. Just keep an eye out on our Twitter and our Instagram throughout the week, as we will have some playoff coverage, especially this 1A, 2A, Friday, Saturday weekend. We will have a ton coming out from 1A, 2A state. Appreciate you guys listening. As always, like, comment, subscribe on our YouTube. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. And we will see you next week for episode 31. Appreciate it.